We are going to be doing the thing that I think most of you kind of like anticipate, want to hear some stories about, like, some families that we've worked with. And it really starts to put context to, numbers, because numbers, we can talk about numbers all night long. And yeah, you might get something from them, but hearing people talk about their lives, and we're so blessed that each year there's people willing to talk about their experience in life and struggles and successes. And that's something that's a little bit unique this year, different than any other year. So we have 4 family testimonies. One Francis brought up, that's in your handouts, that's Robin's story. And there's 3 more, 2 that I'm about to introduce, and then one last one after that. But all 4 of them not only have been rescued, but they have now been empowered and see themselves a part of the rescue mission. So they are reaching out in their ways and their influences, their abilities to reach other people, all for a heart, because they have all 4 of them have a heart for God. They see it, that's a part of their testimony now. So with that, I'd like to bring out Antwan and Michelle, and if you guys can give them a round of applause. Yep, we're on. Well, thank you guys. And so this just happened.
It's crazy.
So I grabbed the 2 of them, and I'm just like, okay, meet me in the green room. And Michelle went in first, and I'm grabbing Antwan, and I'm trying to get a hold of the band. I'm like, here, Antwan, Michelle, Antwan. I leave to try to get the band. I come back. These 2 are hugging each other like, oh, we've known each other for years. Like, we met like years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How did you guys meet?
So I moved here from Texas. If you guys recall from last year, I gave my testimony, but thank you for being here again, by the way. And he was the first person that I met at a school system. And I was like, you look familiar. And he's like, really? He's like, do you work out? I was like, no.
That's the first thing I said, because I live, okay? I work out, so I had to double check.
And then I was like, no, I just know you. He's like, are you in the area? I was like, yeah, I live in Port Orange. He's like, okay, are you in Daytona? So we just kind of talked there. I was like, what do you, he's like, I'm a coach. And then I was like, that's it. He's like, yeah, and you said Atlantic. Yep, Atlantic. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're the coach that introduced us, and you met my husband and my family, and you're like, hey, my son played baseball, and here you go, here are the forms, I got y'all, and that's crazy.
It's just crazy.
These are long lost friends. I'm coming in there, walking into this conversation going, okay, you guys ready to go on stage? Like,
yeah, it's definitely crazy, because a lot of times with me coaching, people will come up and say, hey, I know you, and I'm just sitting there like, please say something so I can remember. Please, you got to say something, because I know. And then when she started talking about it, I was like, yeah, I do remember you. But I was in a different state of mind than I was coach. Now I'm just, helping Antwan Brown now. So,
Antwan, Michelle. You're our first single dad to take the stage.
Yeah.
And this is your first time being here. Michelle, as you said, you were here last year, but there's a very relevant updates that we felt as though we wanted to bring it back, as your story just continues to evolve in a positive way. But I want to start off with you, Antwan, and just kind of talk about, like, what was life like? What was going on before you met us, Salty Family Services?
Well, just like she stated, I'm a baseball coach. I've coached at Father Lopez, Atlantic, New Smyrna, and Bethune-Cookman. So I've been around the game for a pretty long time. I was a pitcher at Embry-Riddle University, where I graduated with my degree in business administration. So I've been like I guess you could call it the athletic jock for a long time. But, when this happened, of course, I was married I was married before all this went down. And, I think what happened to me it didn't have nothing to do with money. It was more so about God actually searching me and actually putting me where I needed to be. I had a pride problem, and I had an ego problem. I didn't know it. On the outside, everybody's like, that's Antwan Brown, but I was a weak man on the inside.
And you had told me that you had faith in the wrong things.
Yes. So I grew up in the church. I was in the church. If it was open, I was in it. My grandma was the pastor. You know, I tried to run away from choir practice and Sunday school and this. I tried it because it'd be like, I'm trying to, you know, hide. Maybe she wouldn't find me, but she always found me. I was out trying to play basketball or football or something because I was like, man, we got to go to church again. I just went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We got choir practice. She got prayer at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, I love God, but I'm sort of over this. I think hell easier to go to, you know? That's how it was when I was younger. I was like, man, if it takes all of this to get to heaven, you know, I might not want to go there. But the thing is, I had faith. I grew up in faith, but my problem was I never knew God for myself. I knew what everybody else was telling me about God, what they told us to read. I was just going through the motions. So then I started, of course, being athletic. It was more one of those. I was believing in God because I wanted to be a professional baseball player. So they told me if you ask God, what would happen? He'll give you whatever it is that you want, the hearts of your desires. So I was like, God, I believe in you, but you better make sure I make it. You know, I never took the time. I read the famous scriptures and all this kind of stuff, but I never really took time to actually seek God. You know, and I think that I made it. Of course, he gave me a gift, you know, my right arm, my athletic ability, but he humbled me and told me it was time to find God for myself. And I think that was what happened to get me to where I am now.
And you were struggling, really, you know, kind of, if do I have this part of your testimony right? You were separated, trying to figure out, you know, single parenthood during that time.
Yeah. So what was happening, of course, and I'm man enough to say this. Had I known who I was, I probably would still be married. I would say to my ex-wife, she's actually here for me. I give credit to her. I'd never be where I'm at today if it wasn't for her. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, because I didn't know who I was, I couldn't be the right man for her. I was doing what I thought was right. You know, I had a job, I'm successful, I'm doing this. Now everything's just gonna work, but I didn't know who I was on the inside.
So things started falling apart.
Yes, and so he was humbling me. He was actually humbling me because the ego comes out when you get a little title.
Sure,
yes, sure. It comes out.
And so, Michelle, before Salty Family Services, I know there's some people here that probably heard your story last year, but just take us briefly through what was going on in life before you met us.
Yeah, so, you know, I came from a family where, you know, we're Hispanic, so you got to say what mom does. You know, what mom says, you got to do. So it's one of those things where you kind of build that within yourself. You become obsessive about being perfect, obsessive about, you know, just being excellent and just thriving and, you know, thriving for excellence. So that overcame who I really was. It really covered me as far as I became this controlling person. I'm a very nice person, but everything had to be perfect. And that really took a toll in my marriage. You know, as some of you know, my husband and I, we're now divorced, but my husband and I, we've been together this will be the 24th year. And, you know, God is still working. We've been separated for 2, and, you know, I know Salty Family Services came into the picture, but my life, I felt lost. I didn't feel a sense of community. You always felt like you got to go for the next thing, stay busy, you know, go where everybody's going, you know, all those things. And then I have 4 kids, so it's like, you got to go. Like, there's no time for sleep. There's no time for anything. You just got to keep going. So it was very, very overwhelming.
And things were, for the both of you, kind of in that place of like not knowing what the next right step was. If I remember both your stories. And then Antwan, you you reach out to us and you get introduced to a mentor. And what was that like? What was that experience like of every week meeting with a mentor, just trying to navigate life, and what are some of the things that were discussed during those meetings?
Man, it was amazing. And shout out to Melissa. Like, she was great. She's right here. Everybody give her a round of applause. So, and it's crazy because our stories it's crazy how identical it is. But man, we was meeting at Dunkin' Donuts, you know, once a week, just sitting down talking. Of course, we was talking about financial stuff, but it left the financial side of it and just went straight into ministry and talking about life. And it just became a healing. And like you said earlier, like having somebody to talk to and express, and not her telling me what I needed to do, but actually just being there to listen and guide me. And she helped me go back to the Word. I think I spent more time in these last couple of years searching God than I ever have in my life, you know, and I applaud you guys. I thank you guys so much because I had to let my pride down for this. I mean, I've had money and I've lost it, but it was never money because I have a gift. It was more so you need to lower your pride and humble yourself, you know, and you need to find me. God was saying I idolized baseball and I idolized money because I never wanted to be broke. So I was the type that I made a lot of money, but I hold on to every dime. My ex-wife, I say, we could have $5,000 and we could buy something for $5, and I'll say, wait, we gotta say that. I gotta put that $5 back. So God showed me that I put money, the fear of being broke, and I put baseball before him. So he was willing to take it all away so that I can actually humble myself and reach out and seek help because he said, you have not because you ask not. So I had to ask for help. And that took a lot out of me, but I'm glad I did it. So I'm thankful for Melissa. I'm thankful for Salty Church. I'm thankful for everything because it was more so work on me. It was never anything to do with anybody else.
And it's funny, you guys probably don't know this. So I used to be in a place, I have one of our mentors helping out doing supervision because we've grown, so I can't meet with all our mentors all the time. But at this time, I was meeting with Melissa, and I would talk about, so what about this, and like a lot of practical stuff. And I remember the conversations were always going back, he just needs to heal from God. Heal with God. Like you were struggling about your relationship with God, and that was just a big part of the healing place that put a lot of things in perspective after that.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, even though I didn't see you then, I was hearing it and then getting to talk to you. So I can, in your testimony, I can hear that loud and clear.
So something that Antwan said, you know, the money part and everything. So I actually was scrolling through Facebook and I saw somebody got donated a car. And we all know that number is not very big, but it has grown. And so that essentially was why I reached out that night through a little form. It was not a phone call, but that's still a call me when. And I was like, man, they can give me a car. My car's in the shop. I don't have a car for like a month and a half. I have 4 kids. They got this, you know. Oh my gosh, little did I know it was a deep dive into the word. So
and so you started meeting with Winter. And part of the testimony that you shared, I remember last year, was there was times that you didn't want to meet.
Amen. Winter would show up and I'm like, I don't want to talk. And she's like, well, I'm here. I'm like, okay. She's like, I have a whole hour. I'm like, all right, we'll just sit here and look at each other. It's fine. And sometimes I would say not one word. She's right there.
But what was that experience like of just every week meeting with
Oh,
somebody?
my gosh.
And because you were brand new in this separation, trying to figure out life now with 4 kids. And I remember part of your story was it was just overwhelming.
Yeah, so my husband had moved out August 29th. I always say I'm a Matthew because I remember numbers. So if you ever read Matthew in the Bible, he's that kind of scholar. But, he left, and then I got in, somebody crashed my car that weekend. And then October 3rd, that's when I reached out to Salty Family Services. And I did not know it was going to be a weekly thing because I know when we first talked, they're like, well, we have a minimum requirement of this, and we just have to do. I'm like, okay, I got this, check. It was definitely a deep dive, and I was extremely grateful for, Winter just being very persistent and very, devoted into my healing or my journey and coming out on the other side. With a great testimony. And not only was she there to help me put together financial budget, that took me she literally, on the 4th time, she's like, all right, we're doing this. She pulled out the sheet of paper, and because she gave me 4 weeks, and I was not doing it. Mind you, I'm in the financial business industry, so it was definitely not something I wanted to do, and I just, applaud her for her work ethic and just her her heart for the people in the mission, because I couldn't have done it without her.
So now mentoring's in the rearview mirror, and I kind of introduced you guys and the families tonight that you guys all in your own way are part of a rescue mission. And speaking with you independently of just, it's not like we were recruiting families and going, okay, are you a part on the team? Like, are you reaching somebody? Are you, like, it just started to come evident. So Antwan, tell us just a little bit about like, how do you see your life now? Like now that you've been a part of a humbling experience, reaching out, asking for help, having somebody walk through life with you, help repair some broken relationships. How do you see yourself now in your ministry, if you will?
Walking by faith. You know, that fear isn't there anymore. You know, and I struggle. It pops up. It always pops up when it comes. But now, like I told you, Jeff, I prayed before I called. You know, like, of course, I had to lose a lot before I called because Antwan not calling nobody to get help, you know, that kind of thing. But when I called, I said, God, if you help me do this, I promise I'll do whatever you ask me to do. You know, I'll share, I'll do what I need to do. So I'm starting right now. Of course, I coach baseball. I'm a big guy, Wade, that's my buddy there. But I coach baseball. But the more I started to get in baseball, like in coach, I started feeling more empty. You know, so I realized that God is calling me to do more. So I started a brand. It's called Married to the Game, a love-hate relationship. So I'm going to start sharing my journey and reaching out to those who are starting this journey to help them understand that baseball is not who you are, it's what you do. And along this journey, you could play it for 50 years, 10 years, or 5 years, but what you're called to do is along this journey. And I don't want a kid to miss it, focusing on something that may or may not happen for them. So right now, I'm in the process of helping those who are starting this process or in this process understand that it's bigger than baseball. It's bigger than baseball. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than the pitcher, the limelight. It's cool. I pitched in the World Series, the NAIA World Series, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't know who you are when they say hang them cleats up, that is a real dark road to go down. It's dark. I didn't know who I was. But once I started coaching, I thought I was playing God. I was playing God. I said, well, I just go coach. Yeah, I'm going to let you coach, but your calling is bigger than coaching. So now I'm in a position to help these young kids find their way. If I get back into coaching, I'm still a coach. You know, that's part of it, but it's to make sure that these kids understand that your calling is along your journey.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and thank you for that. Yes.
And I do wish I didn't have to go through this to find it, but hey, I found it, but it's okay, so I can make sure that they might go through it, but I'm gonna tell you, I don't wish this on anybody, let me tell you, but it's amazing, and I'm thankful for you.
Michelle, yes. You had a number of things happen. I have a list here, just in case if you forget something, I can fill it in. But what's gone on with your life?
So last year I was here. I'm gonna try again, right? Not to cry. So, but this year is different because He's redeemed so much. The Lord has redeemed so much, and I just look around the room, and the people that have been in my life have been placed in my life because I have allowed the Lord to just move. It's overwhelming and overjoyful. So I cry happy tears from 2 years ago, and yes, I would never wish this on anyone. And I'm like, man, can I just go to hell? But we're not doing that. We're going to heaven. But it's amazing, and the support that my family has, my kids. I mean, they really have a true and loving extended family. And it takes a village.
You and your family did something together.
Yeah, so the year started January 1, 1/1 at 1 p.m. We all got baptized.
Let's go.
That has been just an amazing journey. I'm now part of the worship team at Salty NSB. She's always up front. I just have an amazing family. I do partner with Young Life, so, we do Young Life Ministries, Wildlife. Also young adults. We just launched young adults at NSB, Salty. And you know, I'm able also to do outreach in the community. You know, we do Daytona nights on Friday nights when we had food trucks in Daytona, and you know, we preach and pray for people. And you know, I've talked at domestic violence centers in Volusia County. You know, given some tips of financial aid, you know, and budgeting. So you know, it's great that I can share the knowledge and also do it with grace, just like Jesus would. And it's just a blessing. Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I can't appreciate you guys enough, just of, again, being transparent, being open with your lives, and continuing that rescue mission. You know, it's a hard mission. I know a little bit about it. It is sometimes you don't want to reach out and try to get another person because you're tired. But I encourage you both as you are on this mission now, and just thank you for what you're doing, your heart for God, and just you're continuing to share these testimonies and help this ministry as well. So if we can give everybody a round of applause. Thank you both.